Have you ever had one of those days where everything seems manageable? You're patient, productive, and feeling pretty good. And then the next day, one small inconvenience makes you want to cry or snap at everyone or just crawl back into bed. Maybe you've thought, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be consistent? The truth is, there's nothing wrong with you at all, my friend. Today, I want to talk about something called the window of tolerance. It's a concept from psychology and trauma research that explains why we can feel calm and regulated one day and completely overwhelmed the next day. So if this is something that you've experienced, I want to encourage you to stick around. The more we understand ourselves, the more we can grow and the better life that we can create. Before we dig in, let me first welcome you back to The Expanding Soul. My name is Kristen, and just a little forewarning, I am absolutely not a therapist, and this episode is certainly not about diagnosing anything. The goal of today's conversation is just to understand ourselves with more compassion and less judgment. Because once you understand what's happening inside your nervous system, a lot of your reactions and behaviors suddenly start to make sense. And if it makes sense, then we can figure out what to do about it. So let's get into something that I'm just now learning about and that I think really could have helped me understand myself better years ago. We're talking about the window of tolerance, which is a term developed in 1999 by Dr. Daniel J. Siegel, who was a clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA School of Medicine. The window of tolerance is essentially a human's optimal zone of emotions. In this zone, we can function and thrive fully in our daily lives. This is when you're moving through life with confidence. You feel grounded, you're flexible, and you're regulated. It's the zone that we all want to live in all of the time. But when our emotional senses get flooded by some internal or external stressful situation or experience, we tend to move outside of this healthy emotional zone. On either side of the window of tolerance lies two different emotional states that we can occupy. One is hyperarousal, and the other is hypoarousal. Hyperarousal is an emotional state characterized by high energy, panic, irritability, anxiety, and hypervigilance. This is when your fight or flight responses are firing, and when it feels impossible to calm down. When you're in this state, your body feels like it's in danger. Hypoarousal, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's characterized by low energy things like emotional numbness, depressiveness, withdrawing, or shutting down. This is when you feel frozen and possibly dissociated. A lot of this stuff can come off to others as you just not caring or you being lazy. But really, it's a protective response that your body utilizes in an attempt to keep you safe. But why does this all matter? Why is it important to learn about? Well, it matters because it's the only emotional zone that allows your prefrontal cortex to be in control. Outside of the window of tolerance, your amygdala, hypothalamus, and autonomic nervous system completely take over. And that matters because your prefrontal cortex controls your executive processing skills, whereas the amygdala, hypothalamus, and autonomic nervous system are what control your survival responses. And while, yes, we truly need that survival response system for emergencies, we don't want to live our entire lives there. Because in order to thrive in life, we need those prefrontal cortex skills. We need time management skills, emotional regulation, problem solving, and communication skills. It's completely normal and natural to go outside the window of tolerance from time to time. That's only human. The goal is to stay within the window for the majority of the time, and to have that be our default instead of our survival responses being our default. But here's the catch. When we experience things like trauma or chronic stress, our window of tolerance can actually shrink, which means it's harder for us to stay inside of it and easier for us to enter into hyperarousal or hypoarousal. Imagine your emotional capacity as a cup. When the cup is empty, there is plenty of room in it for all of the emotions life may throw at you. But when the cup is already full of things like past memories, financial worries, stressful relationship dynamics, illness, or grief, then there is less room in your cup. And when the everyday life emotions come flying in, it's much easier for your cup to overflow. Personally, as someone with trauma, I know I've lived a lot of my life traveling the expressway between hyperarousal and hypoarousal. You know those routes that you drive so often that you could damn near drive them in your sleep? Yep, that is the level of familiarity I have with that expressway. There were times in my life where my window of tolerance was so small that a gust of wind could be powerful enough to trigger me into going into my survival response modes. But I've been noticing something lately that really has excited me. As I go through the process of healing my trauma wounds and my nervous system itself, I've noticed that my emotional cup is slowly getting less full and slowly decreasing how often it overflows. And because of that, I'm staying in my executive functioning prefrontal cortex longer. So for me, this is personal evidence that by continuing to heal, I'll continue growing the size of my window of tolerance. And I believe that you can do the same. But trauma isn't the only thing that can affect the size of your window. Your window can fluctuate day to day or even minute to minute based on things like how much sleep you got, your nutrition, your hormones, or even during your menstrual cycle if you're a woman. On the other hand, when you're fully rested, eating nourishing foods, exercising regularly, and your body feels healthy, you can increase the size of your window of tolerance. This is why healing doesn't look like a linear process and looks more like an up and down and back and forth process. There are going to be good days and bad days as our bodies naturally fluctuate and respond to life. What healing looks like is that window of tolerance getting bigger and then shrinking, getting bigger and shrinking over and over again until one day you notice that all of the growing and shrinking still resulted with you having a window of tolerance double the size of what you once had. You don't react as much. You get more done in the day. You start accomplishing goals that once scared you. You handle your shit in ways that you once thought were impossible. Healing sometimes can feel tedious, but I promise you, the results are always ones that you will think were worth it. So now that we've learned all about this window of tolerance, let's talk about how to recognize when we have left that window. Building that awareness helps us know that we've left our window sooner, which allows us to redirect ourselves before we make any decisions we wouldn't normally make. It's definitely not easy to build that awareness, though, because when we're in those survival states, relying on our amygdala, hypothalamus, and autonomic nervous system, our prefrontal cortex, with all of our executive functioning skills, is effectively shut down. So our ability to be aware is literally turned off. That's why the only way to build up your awareness is to practice it during times that you're still within your window of tolerance. Just take a few minutes each day to do a full body scan and reflect on how you know you're within your window. Maybe you feel really level-headed today. Maybe you didn't snap back at your coworker earlier. Maybe you just organized your art supplies. Whatever it is, no matter how small, just take a moment to reflect on it and bring your awareness to your window of tolerance. The more you do this, the easier it will be to recognize when you have left that window. So once we do build that awareness and we recognize that we're outside of our window, what do we do to get back into it? The good news is that there are plenty of tools we can use depending on which emotional state we've landed in. When you're in hyperarousal, you're revved up and ready to go. You're in fight or flight mode, you're anxious, you're agitated. So in this state, we need to calm our nervous system down. There are many ways that you can do this. I'll just go over a few. One way to calm things down is to practice deep breathing to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your calm and at-rest nervous system. You can try the 4-7-8 technique, where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. By having the exhale be longer than the inhale, it signals to your nervous system that you're safe. Let's go ahead and practice that one now. So inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. That kind of breathing can automatically trigger that parasympathetic nervous system. Another way to help get out of hyperarousal is to move your body. You could do jumping jacks, jumping, walking, dancing, or even just letting your body shake. Seriously, Did you know that animals will violently shake and tremble after a traumatic event? Like, think of a dog being hunted by a mountain lion. The dog's survival mode is fully activated as it attempts to escape the oncoming danger. Perhaps a loud noise nearby causes enough distraction for the dog to escape behind some brush. The dog would stay in survival mode until it knew for sure that the mountain lion was gone and that the threat had passed. And then it would stand there and shake off the survival mode by essentially just standing there and trembling. And once it was done, it goes back to its normal, happy dog personality. I think it's a form of somatic therapy, actually. Okay, another way to get out of hyperarousal and back into your window of tolerance is to do progressive muscle relaxation. What you do is pick a muscle group, let's say all of the muscles in your toes. Tense that muscle group for 5 seconds and then release. Move up to your calves and do the same thing, your thighs, your stomach, and go all the way up to your head. This can help your body remember what relaxation feels like and help trigger your reality going back into the window of tolerance. And if you're experiencing really intense hyperarousal, try splashing your face with cold water or holding an ice cube or cold cloth on your face. The cooling can help slow your heart rate. Now, if you're in hypoarousal, you want to do something different. You're stuck in a freeze response. So we want to compassionately and carefully reactivate the nervous system. One thing you can do to pull yourself out of that frozen emotional state is to do some sort of gentle and calm movement. This could be stretching, going for a slow walk, some easy yoga poses, or even just throwing the ball for a game of fetch with your dog. Doing this helps you come back into your physical sensations in a loving and peaceful way. Another thing you can do if you recognize you're in hypoarousal is to stimulate your senses. Go put your favorite essential oil in on the diffuser, put on your soft, fuzzy socks, and listen to music that uplifts your soul. Use your senses as a way to come back into your body. You can also use small, accomplishable tasks to get out of hypoarousal. Go get the mail, brush your teeth, feed the dog. Although these things sound tiny, every action still proves to your nervous system that you can affect your reality. And one last thing to try if you find yourself in a state of hypoarousal is to reach out to a trusted friend or loved one. You don't have to tell them how you've been feeling. Just call them or text them and have a normal conversation. Social connection can be such a powerful tool. And you don't even have to talk about being in hyper or hypoarousal. Just having some sort of positive human connection is all it takes. Now let's talk about the largest tool that you have at your disposal: therapy. I know I've probably mentioned this 1,010 times already, but seriously, everyone should go to therapy. I know all of us are in different situations here. I'm not entirely sure how things work outside of the US, but I know that here, insurance and copays can add up really fast. If you're in a situation where insurance isn't an option and you can't afford to pay for therapy outright, I encourage you to check into your local county and city resources. Sometimes wait lists can be very long, but just go find the list and get on it. And if you do have insurance or you can afford therapy, stop avoiding it and go get your ass in counseling. I know it's scary. I know it hurts. But you and I both already know that the healing is worth it. So stop putting off your happiness. I'm sorry for the tough love. I only do it because I really do care about you and I want you to find your peace. At the end of the day, the window of tolerance isn't about your ability to tolerate life. It's about your ability to enjoy and get the most out of life. Because let's be honest, when was the last time you felt enjoyment while in a survival state? Never. That's not what they're for. We want the majority of our lives to be lived within the window so that we laugh more, smile more, accomplish more. And we want to use our hyperarousal and hypoarousal states only on those rare occasions when they're necessary. Because spending months or years in those states doesn't provide you with the quality of life that you truly deserve. Inevitably, you will move outside of your window as you live and breathe and be a human being. But just treat yourself with compassion, grow your awareness, and gently bring yourself back when it does happen. I want to thank you guys for being here and for taking this time to learn about things that can improve your life. Learning is where it all starts. And I'm here learning right alongside you. If you haven't already, please like, follow, and subscribe to The Expanding Soul to stay up to date on future episodes. And if this episode resonated with you, please drop a comment or message me on socials and let me know why. Your feedback seriously means the world to me. As you continue on your healing journey, just know that you don't ever have to do it alone. I will always be here, rooting you on. I'll talk to you next time, friend. Bye.